The rest of the night went without incident. I reluctantly exchanged numbers with Lancaster and Matt. The latter will not for the love of God stop texting, claiming he has more evidence to share with me. The morning after, I began my investigation. Now, just a warning, I'm going to be in a lot of different places throughout the day, so try not to get confused. My first stop was at my local coffee shop, the Jolly Goat Coffee Shop. I have no idea who named the place, and frankly, I don't really care. The Joe at Jolly Goat is much better than all that Starbucks crap, and they can actually spell my name correctly, so I don't really question anything. I was standing by the front window and looking out of it, waiting for my drink, when a thought occurred to me. What if this is all crap? What if Dave Brownstein really did commit suicide, and I'll be wasting my time for nothing? How would Matt react to this? John! I quickly pushed those thoughts away and walked to the counter, retrieving my coffee from Jimmy, the barista that usually makes my morning starter. He was a kid around 19 or 20, about Matt's age. Here, John, he said. Thanks, Jimmy, I replied before walking out of the store. My second stop of the day was Saful Freud, the restaurant Matt and Brownstein worked at. There weren't many customers, only 6 middle-aged men. A waiter was taking an order in the far right corner. I sat down at a 2-person table near the door, placing my fedora on the table. I began to look around and noticed many things. Like the name, the place was very French. The large chandeliers in the middle of the room were just upside-down Eiffel Towers with lights added to the bottom, or the top, technically. The walls were black, with vertical maps of Paris and mirrors all over it. The napkins were very clean, along with the utensils. This place was very lavish for Hell's Kitchen. I didn't even notice the waiter from earlier had now migrated next to my table. Hello, sir. My name is Brady. I'll be your waiter for today. Can I start you off with a drink? I immediately knew that Brady had rehearsed this. It was obvious the guy was a horrible actor. I mean, I just got here and he's already asking me for drinks. Something else is up, and I already knew it. No thank you. I was wondering if I could speak to your boss, Mr. Danworth. Brady visibly smirked on the side of his face, like he knew something I didn't, or that he was expecting me to ask that. And I knew with 100% certainty that something was not right. Just before Brady got to respond, the door to what I now know was the kitchen swung open and Matt Monroe walked out wearing a button-up white shirt and black dress pants. He also had a jacket hanging over his right shoulder. I looked in his direction while Brady responded, "Of course, I'll go see if he can come out." Once again, the inconsistencies were fairly obvious. He didn't even ask me if I had a problem or if something was wrong. Matt looked extremely nervous as he rushed over to me while Brady went off to go get Danworth. Matt sat across from me and leaned in. "What the hell are you doing here?" he asked frantically. I leaned in closer too. "I'm doing what you paid me to do." "Well, why didn't you text me if you were coming here?" "Because you're not my mom. I don't need permission to come here." Just as I said that, I saw Brady walking up to us with some older and much taller man next to him. I'd say his age was mid to late 50s, his height would be 6'1". I stood up, Matt doing the same. The man walked closer to me before we shook hands. "Gary Danworth, pleased to meet you." "Jonathan Campbell," I said. After we finished shaking hands, Danworth looked to Matt. "Homer, I thought you said you were clocking out." Seriously, does everyone really call this kid Homer? "Oh, yeah, I was, Mr. Danworth," Matt said awkwardly before leaving the conversation and then out the restaurant. At the same time, Brady walked away too. "Oh, shall we?" Danworth asked, motioning to the table I was just sitting at. I nodded before the two of us sat across from each other. I studied his face for a few seconds to try and see any sort of expression. I could tell he was sure about something, like Brady. It felt like Gary Danworth knew something I didn't. "So, Mr. Campbell, what is it exactly that you need?" He smirked after saying that. "Well, Mr. Danworth, I'd like to know more about Dave Brownstein, specifically what happened to him. You were his boss, so I figured you know a lot about him." "Yes, I did know him, but I thought he killed himself." "He might have, but maybe he didn't." "Was he part of any groups? Did he have any other jobs?" I asked. Yes, I could have easily just looked through Dave's public record or just asked Matt all of these questions, but I wanted to see Danworth up close, see if he was the type to kill, see if he was hiding something. The second question was answered thanks to the odd smirks and facial expressions he and Brady gave me. He definitely was hiding something. No, he didn't have any of the jobs. I was his only employer. As for any groups or clubs, I wasn't exactly friends with him. If he was lying, he was a much better actor than Brady was. Alright, was Dave acting different the days leading up to his death? He was, actually. He went on a tangent the day before, complaining about how His life is ruined. He was making a scene in front of the patrons, so I kicked him out for the day, telling him to go home and take the day to calm down. The next day, he was like a zombie, barely said anything with bags under his eyes and this just dead look on his face. And none of this concerned you at all? Well, it wasn't my business to intrude on whatever was going on in his personal life. Once again, I couldn't tell if he was lying or not. Eventually, after some more generic questions, I got up, said goodbye, and went to leave, now without taking one last look and seeing Danworth staring at me with no emotion or expression. Once I got outside to my car, I felt a hand around my left arm. I spun around and saw Matt. For God's sake, you're still here? If you want to know more about Dave, you can just ask me. No shit. Look, I just wanted to test him. Is that alright with you? Matt sighed before talking again. Okay, but have you been getting my messages? I've been trying to reach you all night. Fine, what is this new evidence you have? I was hoping he wasn't going to say this, but of course, Matt did. No, not here. They're everywhere. You, me, and Nick need to meet somewhere private. I was really getting tired of this whole secret meeting crap. Look, Matt, can you just tell me what you know? No, we need to include Nick, and plus, it's Homer. I sighed. For the last goddamn time, I am not calling you Homer. And with that, I walked to the other side of my car and got inside. Before shutting the door, I heard Matt say he'll text me the details later. My third stop was the Department of Records to retrieve Dave's public record. Unfortunately, they wouldn't give it to me, claiming that it was stolen. A little pissed, I went outside the building to smoke, where another unfortunate thing happened. Nick Lancaster was walking up the stairs towards me, along with his cameraman, Sal and Sal. For a second, I thought he actually followed me, but the surprised look on Lancaster's face told me otherwise. Mr. Campbell, funny we meet again. It's Campbell, I corrected. What is? Lancaster asked. Never mind, I simply said before putting my cigarette pack back into my trench coat and walking past him. Oh, by the way, I started, turning back around. They won't give you anything. The public record was stolen. What? God damn it. Turn the cameras off. I turned back around and went to my car, making my way to my small office. When I got inside, I couldn't shake the gut instinct that something was off. I felt like I wasn't the only one in this room. I got onto my computer, logged onto the internet, and searched up free public records on Google. I managed to find what I needed on one of the top results. I'll get the basic facts about Dave. His full name was David Joshua Brownstein. He was born on January 26, 1991, and grew up in Evansville, Indiana with his older brother, Charles. When he was 9 years old, he got hit by a car, but surprisingly, no long-term damage came from that. Danworth was right about him being his only employer. Dave's been working at Cold Breath ever since he moved here when he turned 18. He's been working there for 11 years? Jesus. After getting down the necessary information on Dave, I went ahead and looked into his brother, Charles. I found out he drove all the way from across the country here for the funeral, and, lucky me, he was still here in the city, staying at the Roosevelt Hotel. I decided to pay him a visit, see if Dave said anything to him that might be odd or suspicious. But first, I needed to get some lunch. I've been driving around the city all morning, so you can bet I was hungry. I texted Matt asking him to come. There was something I needed to ask him. He replied back almost instantly, like he's been waiting on his phone all day. He said he'll meet me at the location I chose, the TikTok Diner. I ordered a cheeseburger and fries, milkshake to wash it all down. Matt got, and I kid you not, chicken fingers and a large Coke. I finished my meal in less than 10 minutes. Matt was still eating when I finally decided to ask the question. Matt, I need your help. Of course. What do you need? I need you to get me into Saful Freud tonight, specifically Danworth's office. I was half expecting him to call me insane or something, but he didn't. He just smiled and said, Cool. When? Around midnight. Will anyone be there at that time? Nope. Good. If you don't mind me asking, why? Matt asked in between chews. You were right last night. He is definitely hiding something. Now, if that's a cult is still up to debate. I want to see this black robe you found in his office closet for myself. Matt nodded before taking a sip of his drink. Alright, so I'll meet you in front of the store. No, there's cameras in front of the store. We'll have to go in through the back. I'll pick you up at... Where do you live? Alright, first my cell number and now my address. It's a lot of personal information this kid wanted to know. How about you pick me up here? And stopped for a few seconds, I guess going over the idea in his head before nodding and saying, Okay. Also, can you please just tell me what new evidence you have? He shook his head. For all we know, they could be sitting around us right now, listening. I looked around. Matt and I were sitting along the wall. The people in front of us were an elderly couple. Behind us were two doped-up teenagers that were making out very aggressively. Yeah, I don't think people on the verge of dying and horny teenagers on drugs are prime suspects for secret cult members, I said. Will you shut up? I rolled my eyes. After a small argument over who would pay, I was off to the Roosevelt Hotel, my wallet a little emptier. I don't know if it was my appearance or the way I walked up to him, but I could tell the boy at the front desk was intimidated by me. Hey, I need the room number for Charles Brownstein. His name tag read Tony. He looked a few years older than Matt, so early 20s. He cleared his throat. I can't tell you that, sir. I made a confused face. Look, I'm not playing games. What room number? He smiled and looked relaxed now. I get it. This asshole is just being cocky. Like I said, I'm not telling you. I looked at him for a few seconds before punching his throat. His eyes widened and his mouth opened large as he made a gag wheezing noise. I then reached over the counter and grabbed the back of his head, slamming it down on the counter. I then leaned in close. What room number is Charles Brownstein staying in? 588, 588. Was that so hard? I said before pushing Tony, causing him to fall behind the counter. I was the only one on the boring elevator trip. Good, I don't really like people. I knocked on room 588. A pregnant woman answered. I'd say about 4 months. Hi, she said. Yeah, hi, I'm looking for Charles. Can I speak to him? Yeah, sure. Honey? Behind, who I later found out was his wife, Charles appeared. He was about 2 inches taller than me, wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans. He looked up to me. Who's this? He asked his wife, and I guess me. Jonathan Campbell. We shook hands. And Charles, is it okay if I ask you some questions about your brother? Charles and his wife frowned. Mary, can you order lunch now, please? Mary, I guess, nodded and turned around, walking out of sight. Charles walked into the hallway, shutting the door behind him. So, about Dave. Before I could finish my sentence, Charles sucker punched me in the face. I stumbled a bit, not expecting that. Charles then punched me again, this time in the gut, before throwing me to the ground, flipping me onto my stomach and kneeling on my back. What the fuck? I yelled. What did you do to Dave? What? Nothing. I've never even met him. That's what I'm trying to do, trying to figure out what happened to him. Who are you? I grunted. Jonathan Campbell, I'm a PI. After a few seconds, I felt a knee get off me and Charles helping me up. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. I brushed my pants and put my hat back on. You gonna explain why you just pummeled me to the ground out of nowhere? Charles put his hands up. I'm sorry, I thought you were the one that sent me that message. Message? What message? He sighed before reaching into his pocket, pulling his phone out. I threw the note away because I didn't know what to do with it. I was scared, but I took a picture of it. After scrolling through his phone, Charles handed it to me. It was a picture of a note attached to what appeared to be the windshield of a car. The note, that was clearly written in blood, stated, "Keep your fucking mouth shut." After examining the picture, I handed the phone back to Charles. Send me that, will you? I asked, reaching into my trench coat and pulling out one of my business cards with my number on it. Charles took the card and nodded. And you thought I wrote that message? Yeah. But why? Because you asked about Dave. So, how do you know your brother has anything to do with that? Charles cleared his throat before going back on his phone. After a few seconds, he once again handed me the phone. That's why. It was a text message from Dave reading, "See, if you get this, I love you and Mom and Dad. Someone is after me." I handed the phone back to Charles. Send me a picture of that too. Charles, do you know of anyone that would be after Dave? Anyone from his childhood, perhaps? He shook his head. No, not that I could think of. Are you sure? I pressed again. He shook his head and sighed. I know it was obvious Gary Danworth was the one after him, but I just wanted to eliminate anyone from Dave's past that Matt and I didn't know about. Alright, you have my card. Call me in case something comes up. I will. He nodded, we shook hands goodbye, and he went back into his room. The front desk clerk from earlier, Tony, glared at me all the way out of the hotel. And with that, my adventure all over New York City was complete. As if on cue, Matt started calling me. I answered. Hello? We still breaking in tonight? What? Yes, we're still breaking in tonight. Okay, cool. Just wanted to check. Why would I cancel and not tell you? I don't know. Bye. And with that, he hung up. What the hell? I muttered to myself. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed with no troubles. The night, on the other hand, was a whole different story. Something I wasn't prepared for. The TikTok diner was less busy than earlier today. Sitting on the corner was extremely boring, but not for long as Matt pulled up in his Ford Fusion. He rolled the windows down, confirming it was Matt. "Door's unlocked," he said. I walked over and inside his car. Much to my surprise, his car was very clean, much more than mine, actually. The ride should have only been 5 minutes, but thanks to Friday night traffic, it took us almost 20 minutes to get this to full Freud. And throughout the entirety of that car ride, Matt kept making poor excuses for small talk. I don't think he got the hint that I wasn't a small talk kind of guy. When we arrived at the restaurant, however, let's just say this is the exact moment things went wrong. A dark blue van with a logo on it was sitting just behind the building, and standing in front of that were Nick Lancaster and his cameraman. "Okay, what the hell?" I blurted out. "What?" Matt asked before shutting off the car and stepping outside. Jesus Christ. I got out too, greeting the unannounced guests. "Homer, Jonathan," Lancaster started. Matt shook hands with him. "Hey, Sal, other Sal." The two Sals waved to Matt and me. I didn't know this was going to be a group thing," I said out loud for everyone to hear. Lancaster looked to Matt. I thought you told him, Homer." "Told me what?" This is going to be part of the episode." Are you kidding me? Part of the episode? What, us breaking in is going to be on live television? Well, technically we're not breaking in since Homer works here and he has a key. That is true. Homer, shut up. Hey, you called him Homer. Okay, listen, Nick, I don't think you grasp what's really going on here. There is an unsolved murder that has been disguised as a suicide. The victim's brother has been getting death threats. This isn't some stupid little conspiracy like the Illuminati or whatever the hell the internet has come up with. I tried my hardest to intimidate Nick into packing up and leaving, but it didn't work. Nick was about to rebuttal me before a police car parked next to us. Lights, sirens, and everything. All 5 of us turned to see 2 officers step out of the car and walk towards us. "Which one of you is Matthew Monroe?" the taller cop asked. Matt stepped closer in front of Nick and I. "That would be me. Is something wrong?" "In fact, there is. Matthew Monroe, you're under arrest for the murder of Dave Brownstein. Please put your hands behind your back." The officer turned Matt around and put a set of cuffs on him. I studied Matt's face, and I immediately knew he didn't do it. This was a setup. It had to be. And I was going to have to prove it.